And we turn once again to the ongoing foreclosure crisis as News Hour economics correspondent Paul Salmon looks at a government program to get struggling homeowners into more affordable mortgages. The story is the fourth in Paul's ongoing series on the mortgage crisis and part of his regular reporting, Making Sense of Financial News.
How to fix the foreclosure crisis? The key answer was supposed to be President Obama's $75 billion Home Affordable Modification Program, HAMP, announced early last year.
And this will enable as many as 3 to 4 million homeowners to modify the terms of their mortgages to avoid foreclosure.
Under HAMP, mortgage principal usually stays the same, but the interest rate can be dropped to as low as 2%, the terms extended to as much as 40 years. The catch? If your payments still exceed 31% of income, you're denied. So far, barely 500,000 Americans have received permanent HAMP loan modifications, out of the millions the program was supposed to help. And the approval rate is now shrinking. No surprise if you listen to the folks we interviewed, and we had plenty more to choose from.
It's a nightmare, just trying to get a simple answer from these people.
You call them at breakfast, and by the time you reach somebody, it's time for your midnight snack.
I can easily understand how people just go bonkers.
I wish you all the best.
HAMP aims to prod banks that service mortgages by offering them $1,000 per loan modification. It may not be enough.
We're at this now 16 months, year and a half later. Our eligibility has not even been determined.
Sarah and Lee Braun applied to their servicer, Chase, for a HAMP modification when Sarah was laid off. Lee's hours cut back.
The first person who was assigned to our case would not return our phone calls. And since that time, we've had 9 different representatives. And you try to contact them, you don't hear back from them. You call the general number, you find out you've been reassigned to somebody else.
From the get-go, the Brauns documented their efforts, some would say compulsively.
There's been countless numbers of times, which he has well documented, where we've been told you're denied because you have not provided the documents requested, when in fact we have never received a request.
Meanwhile, the Brauns now make the mortgage with the help of family.
You think you're getting help.
Lorraine Yaffe had nothing to fall back on when she lost one of her 2 jobs last year. In January, Bank of America said she qualified for the standard 3-month trial HAMP modification. 4 months later, she called about the permanent mod.
And they said, well, it's still under review. Keep sending those payments. So I did. June 2nd, I got a letter from Bank of America stating that I couldn't qualify under the Making Homes Affordable. And then come July of this year, I hadn't heard anything still as to what my options might be. And I called again, and she said, well, it's still under review. And I said, well, I just got a letter from your law firm stating that you're going to auction off my house August 27th. So how can it be under review?
Yaffe was able to get the auction stayed until November 26th, but now owes even more in arrearages and fees.
So I'm roughly, I would say approximately about $23,000 behind.
Turns out she even pays for ads the bank puts in the paper announcing she's in default.
This is the ad that they charge $700 an ad.
Notice of mortgagee's sale of real estate, $700, Bank of America, Harmon Law Offices, but you paid for it.
It ends up getting tacked onto what I end up owing the bank.
Yaffe's sister, Mary Meaden, helped their brother, James, apply for a HAMP modification through Wells Fargo after he lost his job. The loan was even backed by the VA.
I worked with my brother consistently, probably 2-3 times a week. He was at my house. He was sending things certified, faxed. Every single week a letter went to Wells Fargo and to the Veterans Loan Servicing Administration.
But foreclosure came before modification.
They began eviction proceedings on him, and he had a move-out date of April 15th. And he passed away. He had a heart attack at the end of February. And after that happened, his widow couldn't get out of bed for about 3 or 4 weeks after that. And she was under court order to get out of the house by April 15th. And I said, look, can you give her another month or 2? What's the difference? They said no. I couldn't believe it. I was floored.
Well, you're put under a lot of stress when you're trying to... I'm getting emotional, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When I think of my brother, you get put under a lot of stress trying to get help. And it's not there.
The house is now empty. It's up for sale for about $60,000 less than what he owed on it. They've had a couple of auctions, and they've had no luck in selling it. And he was willing to work with them and stay there. And right now, right off the top, they're taking a $60,000 hit.
Attorney Kevin Costello represents homeowners in cases against J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America, a News Hour underwriter, arguing that when servicers drag out the HAMP trial process, then reject the homeowner, they're breaking a contract.
I think it's clear that servicers have not invested the time, the energy, and the resources in creating an infrastructure within their shops to adequately discharge their duties under the HAMP program. It may be that the financial incentive isn't enough. There are all sorts of fees that mortgage servicers are collecting while the limbo for the homeowner drags on and on.
According to a recent report by the National Consumer Law Center, servicer fees based on a percentage of outstanding balance provide incentives to increase the loan principal by adding delinquent amounts and junk fees. Don Madden says he was surprised to see his loan grow after he was rejected from HAMP by Bank of America, after a 6-month trial that cut his payments from $1,400 to $656.
Now, on a mortgage statement that I receive, it's telling me that I have 6 months delinquent mortgage.
You have 6 months delinquent mortgage?
Delinquent mortgage.
Because of the 6 months in which you pay the $656?
Correct. What they're looking for is the difference between the $656 and the $1,400.
You had no idea you could be charged retroactively?
No, it was never stated in any of their paperwork.
The main problem, according to attorney Costello, servicers haven't been pressured to make permanent HAMP modifications.
What stick is the federal government bringing to bear against servicers who are failing to comply? The data is there that folks are not getting permanent modifications who appear to be entitled to them. What is Treasury doing to enforce the rules of HAMP against servicers?
We don't, under the law, have the authority to require servicers to be part of the program, and we cannot fine the servicers for not complying.
Until his recent retirement, Herb Allison oversaw Treasury's TARP program, which funds HAMP.
These are voluntary programs. We have to strike a fine balance between getting very tough with them and making sure that they're active and involved in our program.
We asked for interviews with the 3 banks involved in the cases we've reported. Bank of America was the only one to grant us interviews on camera.
It never gets easy.
Joseph Brown came to Bank of America last year after a career in carpentry.
A lot of times we have a lot of different specialty departments that handle various cases. So I mean that could lead to the misrouting and of course the frustration.
Rebecca Marone says nationally the bank has added 10,000 loan servicers in just the last year, more than doubling capacity. It now handles 14 million loans, most inherited from an acquisition, Countrywide Financial, 2 years ago, at 25 locations. This one's in California. 2 floors the size of football fields, crammed with cubicles.
We have several thousand people here, associates in the Simi Valley Center, most of which are working on loan modification solutions for our customers.
Moreover, she says, the bank has made many of its own modifications after a HAMP denial, though the terms usually aren't as good.
Since January of 2008, we've done over 680,000 modifications for customers, and of that, 80,000 of those are HAMP modifications.
The latest numbers, 700,000 modifications, including 5,000 more in HAMP, which is now up and running.
But in the early start, building the process, adding new technology, adding new underwriting capabilities, as well as building the capacity was definitely challenging.
J.P. Morgan Chase, which declined an on-camera interview, said the industry was taken by surprise at first. Once the president announced HAMP, they wrote us, our call volume exploded. Wells Fargo has yet to respond at all. So we asked Bank of America's Tricia Helf, who's been modifying loans for 4 years, Was her bank overwhelmed?
No. We take control of our calls and our customers and try and get the help that they need and be the one point of contact for them.
But then, why do so few HAMP applicants get modified? For one thing, customers regularly misrepresent their finances when they first apply over the phone, says Miron, like the very customers we spoke with.
You have a discrepancy between what the customer stated up front and what we were able to verify in those documents.
We relayed the response to Lorraine Yaffe, awaiting foreclosure, and Don Madden, rejected for HAMP. Both vehemently denied the bank's claim, saying they can prove they submitted everything in print right away, accurately.
Absolutely, I have the paperwork right here.
Last week, Bank of America told Madden his mortgage had been lowered 40%. The Brauns, however, got rejected by Chase shortly after the bank was told we were reporting their case, 18 months after the Brauns first applied for HAMP.
Today, the Treasury Department reported that more than half of the homeowners enrolled in the HAMP program have been disqualified.